Alright, so yeah. But how come some of my things not appear as it's supposed to appear, boy? Very strange. Alright? Yeah, how can zoom in now? You get it? It already showing that. What happening? Well, leave it so. Yeah, leave it so. The mouse will film? Alright. Alright. But I start.
Change.
Yeah, I find sometimes my stuff goes so popular as it should, you know. Get the second one for me now. That one. Bismillah. Alright. What are you doing? What are you doing? Alright, good. Now they go inshallah ta'ala. Because I find some of my size kind of show disproportionate, but I nothing. Alright, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man ittaba al-huda. Now, we are on the Khilafah of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. Now, this is a time in Muslim history, right? And as you see, that in Muslim history, after the death of Uthman, it had a lot of odd times, a lot of conflict, a lot of civil war, and who wants to get rulership. Until the time of Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala, and who, when he ruled for 20 years, it didn't have any such thing. And then when Yazid ruled, it started again. And the whole thing about it is that a lot of people present, like on television, or when they tell them the story of Islam, or when it is that they speak about the Khilafah, as if all of it was a bed of roses. And it was not. It was not at all. You would find that in the history of the Khulafa, that there would be opposition to the Khulafa, there would be issues that they would have to deal with. You saw with Abu Bakr Siddiq, he had to deal with internal issues with the likes of Musaylama al-Kadhab and the people who were preventing zakah before Islam could really expand. So there were always issues, even until the year 1924, right? So we had to look at, how to say it, that life is a test, is an examination at the end of the day. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests the believers in different ways, forms, and fashions. All right, so now when I say the Khilafah of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, I am speaking about from the time he really ruled, not from the time he was really the Khalifa. Meaning that he began to rule certain places from the year 64. After his father, Marwan ibn Abdul Malik, he basically was going to die, and he became, that is Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, he became like the Wali al-Ahd. He became the person to come after him, his successor. But really and truly, as I mentioned, Abdullah ibn Zubair was the Khalifa. And Marwan ibn Abdul Malik was going to pledge allegiance to Abdullah ibn Zubair. And then you had two individuals, Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad, who in the next class we would see that he gets killed, and also another individual. Both of them went to Marwan and said, look, you need to get back the throne of your tribe, basically, because they were from the same tribe of Uthman ibn Affan, and of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. So you have to realize that it has a lot of things that are going on, because Marwan himself, he was one of the aides of Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And he was one of those who tried to defend Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu as well. And Abdul Malik ibn Marwan was 9 years old when he saw the killing of Uthman. He saw Uthman being killed. So that has an impact. Right. So during the Caliphate of Abdullah ibn Zubair's aforementioned, Marwan ibn Hakam was going to pledge allegiance to him, as I mentioned. However, when Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad and Hussein ibn Nimr encountered him, they encouraged him to take back the reign of his forefathers, and both swore allegiance to him. And you will see where this sword allegiance goes to when it is that we look at the story of Mukhtar ibn Ubaid al-Thaqafi, not Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi, not that one. Mukhtar ibn Ubaid al-Thaqafi, and his fitna was a big fitna. As a result, Marwan ibn Hakam took the Levant and Egypt and continued to take territory until he died, and his son Abdul Malik took over, remember? He encouraged Marwan, right? Marwan ibn Hakam, he encouraged the people to make bay'ah or to pledge allegiance to Abdul Malik before he died. So he had the Levant, which is Lebanon, Syria, and Palestine, and Jordan nowadays, and parts of Turkey, and Egypt. And the rest of the territory was Abdullah ibn Zubayr. As a result, Imam al-Dhahabi clarified that Marwan is not considered from the Khulafa, because it comes like he basically revolted against Abdullah ibn Zubayr when Ibn Zubayr was the real Khalifa. And likewise, Abdul Malik ibn Marwan was not the Khalifa when Abdullah ibn Zubayr was alive. It's only when he took Makkah under the auspices of Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, and Makkah became under control, and all the Islamic lands came under his control, then he was considered as the Khalifa. Right? And him giving the leadership to his son was not legitimate as well, because he wasn't the Khalifa at the end of the day. Right? So he was the Khalifa, so he couldn't give it to his son afterwards. As with Muawiyah, he could have given it to Yazid. But in this case, he could not give it to his son because he wasn't the Khalifa in the first place. Right? It was only when Abdul Malik quelled all opposition that he became the ruler of the Muslims. Now we're going to look at the opposition, that there was plenty. Allahul Musta'an. Right? Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. Now, I don't know why it appears like this, but Allah knows best. So he was born in the year 26 AH, after the Hijrah. Right? So he would have been born possibly during the reign of Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu ta'ala. No, before that. Like he would be born in the beginning of the time of Uthman ibn Affan, because as I said, he witnessed the death of Uthman when he was about 9 years old. Before taking the Khilafah, he was a scholar in the religion. He was only Fuqaha of Medina. He was one of the big, what happened there? He was one of the big scholars of Medina. That's the wrong, you have to go back. I mean, I don't think you can really fix that here. Leave it just so, inshallah. Right? He was one of the big scholars of Medina, in fact. He was one of the Fuqaha of Medina at the time. And what happened is that you would find in the books of, what do you call it, appraisement and disparagement, Jahru Ta'dil, where it is that they speak about the different ruwat, where they speak about the different narrators of hadith. They would mention him in these books. And they would say that after he became a Khalifa, he got busy from knowledge. Well, obviously, because he had to quell all kinds of opposition while he was Khalifa, or while he took the rulership. Allegiance was pledged to him during the life of his father, Marwan ibn Abdul Hakam, in the Levant and Egypt. Beforehand, as I mentioned, the ministers of Abdullah ibn Zubayr were still in key areas such as Iraq and the Hijaz. So Iraq, meaning Iraq and whatever goes after Iraq. That was under Abdullah ibn Zubayr. And likewise, the Hijaz, Makkah, Medina, Yemen, these places, they were under Abdullah ibn Zubayr. So therefore, Marwan himself sent armies to defeat them. This is in the case of Abdullah ibn Zubayr. The Battle of Ain al-Warda took place in the year 65 AH, wherein Sulaiman ibn Sa'd radiallahu ta'ala anhu fought the army of the Levant, meaning the army of Marwan ibn Hakam. So I put a note there. When speaking about the reign of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan from the year 65 AH, it does not mean that he was the Khalifa of the Muslim world yet. So he only becomes Khalifa when the opposition of Abdullah ibn Zubayr is quelled. It's only then, and when his hukum becomes mustaqir or becomes settled, then he becomes the Khalifa. All right? Next one. All right. What happened here? I just like a cat. All right, next. This is nice. So you have the Battle of Ain Warda. Ain in this case, this is a spring, the rose spring. All right. So the army of Sulaiman ibn Sa'd is called Jaysh al-Tawabin. Now what happened? Again, they were from Kufa. As we speak about, Kufa have miserable people for many years. They basically, Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu was stabbed in Kufa when he was the ruler of the Muslims, and he used constantly disobey him. Likewise, Hussein ibn Ali, when it is that the people of Kufa called him to be the Khalifa, and what happened is that they didn't come out to help him at all. And it's obvious, as I said, that Hussein ibn Ali, he wasn't looking for a fight because he brought women and children with him. And as a result of that, many of the women, children, and likewise the men from Ahlul Bayt were killed. So what happened, that Jaysh al-Tawabin was made up of the people of Kufa. They saw it as their tawbah, since they didn't go out to help Hussein ibn Ali to go and fight against the troops of Marwan ibn Hakam. Okay? So in order to get revenge for Hussein, meaning to kill the killers of Hussein. So you see it happened all over again. Plenty of the civil wars is a result of who want to get back for the blood of Uthman, or who want to get revenge for the blood of Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And you see the next character, I don't call him a character, Mukhtar ibn Ubaid, he said he was going to get revenge for the blood of Hussein, and that the Mahdi sent him. We'll go through that just now, inshallah ta'ala. Right? His army numbered 4,000. Now, this is the strange thing, right, about the people of Kufa, that people were saying, yeah. So 12,000 come out, then 20,000, and then he left Kufa at 4,000. So they always used to be doing this kind of nonsense. They say, yeah, we will help you, Hussein. Hussein comes with 70-something people, nearly all of them get massacred. He goes and says, yes, we're going to find the killers of Hussein. Everybody come around him, mashallah, then he leaves Kufa with only 4,000 people. The Levantine army numbered about 12,000. So Sulaiman ibn Sa'd was called to pledge allegiance to Marwan ibn Hakam. Right? And we have this, I don't call him a scum, Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad, right, who orchestrated the killing of Hussein, radiallahu ta'ala anhu. He was called, like Sulaiman ibn Sa'd called the Levantine army to just hand him over. Because they wanted to kill him, obviously, because he was the cause of the death of Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And so he was told to pledge allegiance to Marwan ibn Hakam. Of course, he said no, because we have to get the killers of Hussein. Same thing with Muawiyah. He said, no, we can't pledge allegiance to Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu as yet, because we have to find the killers of Uthman. Same kind of thing. And they basically told the Levantine army, meaning the army who was under Marwan, to hand over Ubaidullah, or else. So both armies, obviously, they rejected each other's terms and fighting began, and it was quite bloody. Right? Unfortunately, yet again. So reinforcements from the Levant came in the tens of thousands on a regular basis. So when you have reinforcements against 4,000, you know what's going to happen. And what happened is that these people who were part of the Jaish al-Tawabin, they basically were saying, here what, this is our Tawbah, so we go to accept our martyrdom. So even though they had a chance to retreat, they said to themselves, okay, we're going to keep fighting until we die. May Allah have mercy upon them. Right? So reinforcements from the Levant came in the tens of thousands on a regular basis. And Sulaiman ibn Sa'd was killed. The fighting continued. However, the army of Sulaiman ibn Sa'd, who was a Sahabi, was eventually defeated. And then they went back, whoever was left, they went back straight to Kufa. And we'll see what happens in Kufa next. Right. The year 65 AH. Yeah, we have all the characters along the start. Right. So in that year, the Khariji from the Khawarij, as I told you, they would appear every so often in Islamic history, right? Like ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Al-Azraqi, this one, that one, they just appear every once in a while, right? So in that year, the Khariji, Nafi ibn Azraq, found out the Azaraq of the Khawarij was killed. After Ibn Azraq was defeated, his deputy, Ubaidullah ibn Mahuz, took charge. So basically, they were stirring up something too. Right? So you had what was happening from Kufa, or the Jaish al-Tawabin, the Jaish or the army of those who make Tawbah. And then you have some of the Khawarij stirring up trouble yet again, as they did during the time of Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So these Khawarij, and remember, they were responsible for the killing of both Uthman and Ali. So these Khawarij were taking large swaths of Iraq and were about to take Basra. The people of Basra who feared the Khawarij didn't want the Khawarij to enter because they were causing mischief all over the lands they conquered. They were just killing people and teaching people what. That's basically it. You know, so they're not really fighting fi sabilillah, they're just fighting fi sabilid dunya. Killing people, taking their word, calling them kafir. Same old thing. The armies of the Khawarij and Abdullah ibn Zubayr, or meaning the armies of Abdullah ibn Zubayr, met in a place called Dulab. Alright? And the commander of Abdullah ibn Zubayr's army was Al-Muhallab, who after suffering heavy losses, defeated these Khawarij, and their leader was killed, the deputy Ubaidullah. Alright? And in that year also, there was a plague of Al-Jarif, which killed tens of thousands of people in Basra, and also Abdullah ibn Zubayr built the Kaaba according to the way of Ibrahim. That was one of the things that he spearheaded. And eventually, Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, when he conquered Makkah, he destroyed what Abdullah ibn Zubayr built and built it back to the structure we see today. At the time, Ibn Zubayr still ruled Makkah, Medina, Iraq, and Khorasan, but it's just that the rebellion in Iraq itself, it was quelled by Ibn Zubayr's army. So now, oh yes, in comes Mukhtar ibn Rubayt. One character. Now, every time you'll find, and I spoke about this regarding Abdullah ibn Sabah as well, you will find a very corrupted individual, extremely corrupted, looking for power, maniacal, psychopath, showing piety. And he was one of them, right? Power-driven, maniacal, psychopath, planning, plotting, but playing pious. Same as Abdullah ibn Sabah al-Yamani, who formed the Shia, basically, sitting down in the masjid, mashallah, quiet, reading Quran, thing. And look, he's plotting to cause division amongst the Ummah. At that time, plotting to speak about Uthman ibn Affan, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and he was one of the causes of the murder of Uthman ibn Affan. This one, he was one character. Same thing. you know, and showing shaja, showing bravery, extremely good character, eloquent, could read Quran real nice. Shaitan. Shaitan. Marra. Big shaitan. Right? So you can't really look at a person and, you know, say, MashaAllah, this, that, that. Yeah, you judge upon what is apparent as well. But you have to see their actions and what they say and how it is that they're conducting themselves with people and how they're conducting their business. Then you would know exactly what is going on. Because, I mean, again, the killer of Ali radiallahu ta'ala and who was recommended by Omar. He was recommended by Omar to teach people how to read the Quran. And he was the killer of Ali. So we have to look at things, people's operations and whatnot, and how they do things and how they practice. It's not an easy thing. But these people, they always show an air of piety with themselves. So you have to be very careful. And you have a few of these characters in Islamic history once in a while. And same with the Khawarij, remember when we spoke about the Khawarij, the Prophet ﷺ said that you would see your salah insignificant next to their salah. And you would see your fasting insignificant next to their fasting and their prayer, all these things. And when they were passing, the Sahaba were passing by the camp of the Khawarij, they were hearing Quran like the buzzing of bees. They saw the people, they thin, praying Qiyamah the whole night. And the Prophet ﷺ still called them the dogs of Jahannam. Now, tell him. So, Mukhtar ibn Ubaid, he birth is 66 AH after the Hijrah. So when the Tawabin army, remember that same Tawabin army under Sulaiman ibn Sadr who got defeated? Right. They returned to Kufa. He was in prison. I don't know what they say, what he do or what he do. But he was in prison. That's all we know. So Mukhtar wrote to them. So you know who he in prison under? He in prison under a governor who was appointed by Abdullah ibn Zubayr, obviously. So Mukhtar wrote to them that he would bring the sword upon their enemies. MashaAllah. And that I have it for them. You know, I will make sure I get the murderers of Hussein. And. So he was, you know, real sweet talking and, you know, writing letters to them. And it was like, MashaAllah, we love his enthusiasm. And as Ibn Kathir said, and the shaitan doesn't promise except anything except illusions. Wama he wrote exactly in the Bidayah wa Nihaya, Wama ya'iduhumu shaitanu illa ghurura. According to this man of shaitan. Because he ended up claiming that he was a prophet. Yeah. So when a person saying, yes, we'll get back the Ummah, yes, don't just listen to every enthusiastic voice. Nah. You have to see the person's actions and see the person's belief. And you have to see the certain things from the person. You can't just, and you'll see the people of Iraq, they jump on the bandwagon, unfortunately, right? Subhanallah. So when I read that from Ibn Kathir, I laughed, you know, I was like, Subhanallah, look at this, huh? So Abdullah ibn Umar became an intermediary in getting him out of prison. Because what happened is that a pious person, a pious woman wrote to him saying, okay, he's in prison and he was oppressed. So he ended up writing a letter to the governor of Kufa to get him out of prison. And he was released. Right? Let me see that part. I'm not getting that part there. I'm making up out inshallah ta'ala. Now, so let me see. I don't know how come it does show like that. Right. So after he came out of prison, right, the Shia gave him the Pledge of Allegiance. Yes, that's what happened. Right? So after he came out of prison, the Shia, who were calling themselves the Shia of Ali, they gave him Pledge of Allegiance, but how they give it to him? Secretly. So you see the tactics, right? So it will back up inshallah. Back a lot. Yeah. Huh? Yeah. Yeah, I see nothing. That real strange, bro. Yeah. Right. So what happened is that, as we know, Kufa was under Abdullah ibn Zubayr. So Mukhtar was in prison. MashaAllah. And then what happens now is that Abdullah ibn Zubayr, sorry, Afwan, of course, the governor of Kufa is under Abdullah ibn Zubayr. So then intercession comes from him for Ibn Umar, and people wouldn't refuse Ibn Umar. Right? But just put it back up, inshallah. You see the mouse, what the? I don't know what's going on. But anyway, that bus. Yeah, try to take it from here again. Right, okay, well, leave it so, yes? Right. Okay, that bus, yes, I got. Now, so, right, so, no, go back to the next one. Right, so they were basically doing it in a kind of a secret manner so that Abdullah ibn Zubayr wouldn't hear about it, or his governors wouldn't hear about it. So the Shia already gave by at him. So go to the next slide, inshallah. Go down. You're going back. Right, this slide here. I can read it from here, no problem. Alright, so the fitna Mukhtar, it will take a few more slides even next week. Because there's a big fitna and he need to already go through it, right? So the fitna, Mukhtar had such strength that Abdullah ibn Zubayr removed Abdullah ibn Yazid and put Abdullah ibn Muti in his place. So basically, he was gaining strength in, you see? Yes, alhamdulillah. Right, good. Right, so Mukhtar had such strength that Abdullah ibn Zubayr removed Abdullah ibn Yazid and put Abdullah ibn Muti in his place. So he moved him because he thought he was too weak now. So after Abdullah ibn Muti said in his address that he would follow the way of Omar, Uthman, and Ali, as Sa'ib ibn Malik al-Ashri said, we don't want anything except, it's supposed to be one. We don't want anything, or we don't wish for anything except the way of Ali. So they were Shia. So when he realized that, he said, but wait, now what already happened here? So the commissioner of police, this is a loose word here, right? But he was the head of the police. Iyas ibn Mudarib went to Ibn Muti to tell him to arrest Al-Mukhtar and send him back to prison. Because he realized what's going on. This man, he get clemency to come out of prison, and now people pledging allegiance to him to do your thing. So he's like, hey, here what's happening? You gotta put this man back in prison. Al-Mukhtar fake sickness. I tell you, the man's a character, the man good. So he faked sickness, avoided prison because of sickness. They thought he was real sick, but he wasn't. He was planted. And within a few months, he began his rebellion in order to gain revenge for Hussein. And then he ended up calling himself a prophet. Allah Mustaan. All right. Next slide. All right, this is the last slide. After much persuasion, Ibrahim ibn Ashtar, now he was one of the rulers of Kufa, one of the ministers there, one of the big people there. Now they knew that they couldn't get anybody else to do it except Ibrahim ibn Ashtar al-Nakhai. One of the rulers of Kufa pledged allegiance to him after Mukhtar came that Muhammad ibn Hanafiya. Muhammad ibn Hanafiya is Ali's grandson, radiallahu ta'ala. And he claimed that Muhammad ibn Hanafiya encouraged others to join the latter's group. So this is how it happened, right? So he goes to Ibrahim ibn Ashtar. I said, you know, I have a letter from Ibn Hanafi. Well, the first thing he said is that, well, the Mahdi sent, the followers of Mukhtar says that the Mahdi sent me, or sent him. And he was like, what kind of mad thing is this? I don't follow the worry. So then Mukhtar came to him. He showed him goodness. Real nice. Butter him up. You know? Sweeten him up now for the kill. Fatten him for the kill, as we say, right? And he said, you know, I have a letter from Ibn Hanafiya. Now, of course, it's Muzawwara. That letter was a big lie. And he said that this is what Muhammad ibn Hanafiya said, that, you know, you should join our group. So he said, how do I know that this is from Muhammad ibn Hanafiya? So then Mukhtar said, look, all these brothers here, they witnessed it. They say, yeah. And all the blind, huh? Tricks, you know. Tricks. Con artists. And the whole thing, right? When it is that to try to con people in the religion, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does this end up misguiding you further and further and further away until you leave the religion or you end up in an extremely bad state. That's what does happen. Right? And Ibn Mati heard of this and put police in every corner of Kufa. It had thousands of policemen all over the place in Kufa. Right? Because he realized, okay, we have a problem on our hands now. Right? Now, before we go into how Mukhtar defeated the police now, the first thing, of course, the followers of Mukhtar ibn Ashtar, what they would do, they were hiding the swords, and they had only big cloaks. Remember, so long time they had only big cloaks, so they were hiding the shields. They might not have been extremely big, or they might have been thinner, and the swords, you know, to plan the revolt and to do whatsoever else. And eventually one of the policemen found them, and fighting started to break out, and eventually they got to defeat the police. All of them. And Ibn Muti, he was kind of clement, right? Mukhtar, although he's a big character, he was a bit clement. He sent him, he said, here, what happened? He gave him some money, you can leave the area. And the next thing after that, after sending the Minbar, Mukhtar, very eloquent, Kari Quran, real nice. Yeah. Promised the people to govern by the book of Allah, the Sunnah, and to get revenge for Hussein and Ahlul Bayt for Karbala. Remember Jaisha Tawabin? Right. Same shi'ar. Same type of slogan. The people gained love for him. He had very nice character as well. Very good character. Gave a lot of money to those who fought with him. Right? Put another police commissioner. And also, what he did, and he really did do it, he followed the killers of Hussein one by one and started to kill them off. He really did it, right? But afterwards came what he started to say that he's a prophet. That's the thing. So, I mean, all the cloud artistry he did, it kind of caught up to him. Allah Musta'an. So, I mean, you know, fitan happened in the Islamic world. It wasn't a bed of roses for, you know, during these times. In some cases, you would find eras, as I mentioned last week, that where generally it was extremely peaceful, as in the case of Abu Bakr and Omar, although it is that Abu Bakr had some opposition in the beginning, Omar never really had any opposition, and during the time of Uthman until the last part. And then with Ali and Hussein, with the end part of Uthman's Caliphate and Ali, which was very short comparatively. You had the first civil wars. Then one Muawiyah ruled for 20 years. So the amount of years when the Sahaba were there of peace compared to war was far more. But it's just that, you know, the war has been, you know, you have to know the reasons why this thing happened. So in case the Shia come or whoever else come, they could actually elucidate the reasons as to why it happened. And what happens, so as I said, with Muawiyah was 20 years on a stretch, and then from Yazid up until, you can say, up until the time of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, it had problems. But then from Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, about the 10th year of his reign, until Umar ibn Abdul Aziz or until after that, you can say the Muslim world was relatively peaceful. So he had ups and downs, all this is as a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, any questions? Yeah. He was a mufassir, a scholar of tafsir, a scholar of history, a scholar. So plenty of what I get is from Ibn Kathir because he's very reliable. He has a lot of what you call tanqih. In other words, he kind of sips off the milk from the fat, if you know what I mean. So he was a famous mufassir, a famous historian, a famous muhaddith as well. He was a scholar of hadith. That's why Ibn Kathir, Tafsir Ibn Kathir itself, he uses first Tafsir Ahadith. And he uses Athar, or uses the narrations from the early Muslims. You'll find about a lot of Ahadith because he memorized Musnad Ahmad, which is like about 30,000 Ahadith. Memorize the whole thing. So you'll find a lot of the times he just quotes from Musnad Ahmad. Most of the time he goes from there. Right? Because he memorized the book. And and he was a famous scholar of fiqh, but not much of his fiqh books really got to the fore. But his more famous works include in hadith. He has a book called Ikhtisar Ulum al-Hadith, a summary of the sciences of hadith, which is a summary of a book by Ibn Salah. He has what we know Tafsir Ibn Kathir. We know Bidayah wa Nihaya. We know Qasas al-Nabiyin. We know these different things. We know Tafsir Ibn Kathir as well. Right? Tafsir Ibn Kathir as well. So yeah, he had split in a lot of sciences, huh? Yeah, especially the Tafsir. I think the Tafsir made him the most famous out of anything else because people consider his Tafsir to be the best out of all the Tafsir. Because what happened is that Ibn Kathir, he shortened, or his Tafsir is like a abridged version of Tafsir al-Tabari. Tabari is a much larger, it's like an encyclopedic Tafsir. But Ibn Kathir is like a shorter version of it because Tabari relies a lot upon ahadith and narrations of the Salaf because he was very close to the time. And Ibn Kathir basically took a lot from Tabari. Yeah, so for that reason, he's extremely famous.
So the rule that exists in the time of Muhammad was before after the book of era compared to today. What silent and really what exists today and the kind of so the number of things following also the unification of the Caliphate with another five Marwan. So they have the Fifth War.
Yeah.
Those who are pledged allegiance to those five withdraw their allegiance to.
Yeah. Yes, once it is that Marwan became the person in power and his power settled down, because, once it is that the power settled down and they basically take power and it settles down, meaning in other words, everybody gives allegiance to them. In that case, yeah, the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum gave allegiance to Abdul Malik ibn Marwan at the end of the day. Yeah. So even after Ibn Zubayr, after his army was conquered and whatever else, they may try and give bayah, because really and truly, if it is that you don't give bayah and they give bayah to somebody else, things just going to continue in a spiral. So that's why you find most of the Sahaba, they didn't get involved in any of these wars or anything like that. Most of them is probably like, I believe one of the scholars said only about 30-something out of hundreds of thousands. So, yeah, it was a very small
position, Islamic Sharia position, regardless of a person, their qualifications, their actions, their principles. But if you come to one where you're not inherent with the leadership that you know by faith or by his leadership is not what it's supposed to be.
Right.
Still by our decisions or the assumption that people have to live.
No, you have to take it. You have to take it by so it would have unity. Because, yes, if a leader isn't, and the Prophet ﷺ spoke about that as well. Yes, if a leader, he has a lot of issues, people don't like him, etc., like that, is a problem in and of itself, right? But however, like us, for example, not liking a leader, for example, is of lesser benefit than taken by other, well, that's not like a Muslim country, of course, right? Than taken by a Muslim leader, meaning that you have to weigh the benefits and the benefits and that which is not beneficial at all, that which would make mischief or that which would make problems. So you have to weigh the benefits and the harms. That's the words I was looking for. So, for example, if we don't like a particular leader, for example, might be doing a bunch of crazy things. But however, if it is that we revote, it will cause more harm to the Muslim world and more harm to the Muslims in general, then in that case, it's unlawful to revote. And whenever it is that you find that there was a revote that went against the Sharia, you'll never find it successful. You'll never find it successful. However, hold on. All right. So, for example, right, if it is that there's a leader we don't like, but the countries, the Muslim countries are under him, for example. Now, if it is, right, no problem, right, if it is that you revote against the leader, it's most likely going to cause a bigger harm, meaning that it's going to make za'a. In other words, it's going to disturb the peace and the prosperity of a particular country, for example, even though the leader do not set a stupidness, for example. If you revote, it's going to cause more problems. And the problems it would cause is that it would even go in terms of, it would even go in terms of separating the people, number one. Number two, that it might not even be safe for a person to practice their deen as beforehand. So all these things that we have to look at. So since it is that the benefits of staying under an unrighteous leader is greater than the harm of revolting against him, right? Or the harm of the leader himself, in that case, you stay with what is more beneficial for the Muslims in and itself. And basically, once it is that the people are righteous, whoever is a fajr, whoever is a wicked, an evil ruler, he going to die in any case, so eventually his will go, and that'll be it for him. But what happens is that when it is that you revolt against a leader who a person who we might not like, and it's either he fights and he gets back power, or if it is he is killed, as you know, we have a statement in Trinidad, the devil, is greater than is better than the devil you don't know. The person who we get after might be even more oppressive than before, as we will see with Hajjaj and Yusuf, with Hajjaj eventually, right? So all these things we are taking mind. And also the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said that there would be rulers that they do not follow my sunnah, they do not guide by my guidance, and they have the bodies of shayateen, and they have the hearts of shayateen and the bodies of men. And that's in Sahih Muslim. I don't know how people could say that hadith is not Sahih, it's Sahih Muslim. Right? And whoever says not Sahih, actually go and study the science of hadith. Tell them plain and simple. I see some amateurs, and I don't call them that, amateurs, as a brother say, but I said that talk one time he was talking about people speaking about the Qur'an and the Muslim, the writing in the Quran. He say, they might think they're gorilla, but they are chinchilla. Chinchilla is like a kind of little animal that is kind of crawl around now. Right? It's like a little rodent. Right? So, reality, if it's in Sahih Muslim, and no Imam of the past has said that the hadith is not Sahih, and if it is that the person doesn't know the conditions of Imam Muslim, and sometimes he might take a da'if, it's not, but he has shawahid for it, and if he doesn't know these things, then he should be talking about that. That's all. He should just stay away from it. Right? So he said that they would have the hearts of shayateen in the bodies of men. So a Sahabi asked the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, should we fight them? And he said, Isma wa atir. He said, hear and obey, even if they beat you or they take your money. It don't mean, ruler, here's my back. It don't mean that. If the ruler going to beat you or kill you or something, or take your money, you have the right to do what? No one people as well. Exactly. Right? So the whole thing, right? If it is that they're doing that, what are you going to do? You run. It's that simple. You bust it. You get out of it. You have many ulama of the past, like Imam Barbahari. The ruler was looking for him, and he busted. He ended up dying by a woman's house, hiding from the ruler. Right? So you run and you bust it. You obey him. You don't rebel against him. But if he's looking for you, you don't say if the ruler looking, If he arrested you unjustly, if you do nothing, you have a right to get out and exile yourself.
You have unjust rulers who have and continue to imprison pious and righteous
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
but in point of fact, like during this time,
but the thing is, yeah,
the Sahabas were all pleasant reasons why they move on. They don't revolt.
Yeah.
They move away from the land or move away with their families or so, and they didn't stay with pleasant reasons.
I mean, some of them ended up in China for dawah things. So I mean,
They move out.
yeah, some of them, but they didn't really deliberately move out.
So if you can't live on that continue or under that particular ruler,
Yeah.
there's nothing that prevents
Yeah, to go somewhere else.
You're not forced to live under their condition, under their leadership.
But once you're under their territory,
You don't revolt.
and you have to get by after them.
So you have to conform to the rules of the nation.
Yeah. Of course, if he calling towards evil, you don't follow him in that evil, as the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said. Right? So that's the whole thing about it. But in terms of the rulers who have ma'asi and who are sins and who do all kinds of crazy stuff, in that case, you pray for their guidance, number one. Number two, you don't obey them in the stupidness that they do. Number three, you don't revolt. Because eventually, it's either Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would make you die before he dies, or he will die before, and Allah might replace him with a righteous ruler, because eventually, after how many years, you had a ruler like Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. So that's the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regarding these things sometimes, like
Even said this before, when truth.
Exactly.
The question is, but based on the context of the hadith of narrated, the shayateen,
Yeah.
and the leaders. What was the advice of the Rasul when these people come?
It's a hear and obey, right? And then in ma'ruf, of course, because if you take other ahadith, it says basically that innama ta'a fil ma'ruf, that very obedience is in that which is good, right? But they hear and obey, of course, in that which is good. Even if they beat you, or even if they take your money, right? But of course, that doesn't mean that if they try to beat you, take your wife, and think that you don't run, you could run. It's not a problem, because you're disobeying them, and you're disobeying them in terms of them disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's a different thing. Because people think that means that, okay, the ruler comes to beat you, you just take your legs. No, you could run.
But I'm trying to reconcile all this with the leadership of the right and the Khalif, of course. Where they will speak and they will say, well, they will correct you. They will sworn in some cases.
Yeah.
They will correct you. So, that if you correct with your obedience on that, correct on this one, actually, they get Omar and these guys in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
So, trying to reconcile those hadith and those directions and practice Sahabas then. And to please people who know their leadership and their rule is against the Quran itself.
Well, and that goes according to the hadith, that they wouldn't rule according to the sunnah, and they wouldn't guide, they wouldn't guide by my guidance. That's exactly what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said.
Until you are prepared to give up your shuhada or your martyrs for the game, Allah will give you that success. You have to give the shuhada, martyrs.
Yeah.
But of course, I really have a beef for it, but it takes up. And like I was saying, trying to extrapolate those times to the time that we're living now, I want to see happening in Lebanon and
Yeah.
how do we reconcile the time of Rasul and our fashion again to now?
No, but remember, a time when the Rasul and the Khulafa, they were obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But like, even if the ruler is a sinner and is disobedient and he does things that are incorrect, basically, the creed of Ahlul Sunnah, based upon the ahadith, several ahadith, that's not the only hadith, is that even if the ruler is unrighteous, wicked, evil, maniacal, whatever he is, then in terms of that which is good, of course, in terms of that which is accordance to the Quran and the Sunnah, you hear and obey him. And that's basically it. Because what happens, if it is that you don't hear and you don't obey him in that which is good as speaking about, it will just cause more problems than there's needed. Because what is needed under a ruler, you have peace, you have that the particular place is settled. But once it is that you have revolts and problems and whatnot, the deen wouldn't be established, because of the ittirabat and the problems. People wouldn't be able to go to the masajid and pray properly or to learn or anything like that. And also the dunya wouldn't be established. Despite the corruption of the ruler, the dunya, the people wouldn't be established as well, because they wouldn't be able to buy and sell and do other things that they're supposed to do. So it's better to stay under a corrupt leader Islamically. Well, we're not talking about Raleigh and them. He's not a Muslim. But it's better to stay under a corrupt leader Islamically than to basically have that revolt against that corrupt leader, because of the issue of peace and security and whatnot like that. Huh? Yeah, there you go.